Donald Trump decided he was going to stop over in Detroit at the Detroit Economic Club, and he was going to give a little controversial speech. So we're going to check out a good portion of it, but mostly we're going to check out what he said about the automotive industry. And of course, he's in Detroit. So of course, the majority of this speech was about the automotive industry. So let's check it out.
I had that GTO. Oh, I thought I was the hottest guy around. It was crazy. We didn't have all of the foreign competition then. He was so proud to have a Corvette. Oh, if you had a Corvette. I never got a Corvette. I tell you, I was left behind. But I had my GTO. That was something, man. I'd put that top down. See, in those days, I didn't mind when the hair waved. I'd go fast, and that hair would be waving, that blonde hair, and I'd say, who the hell can take me? Nobody. Today, I'm a little more careful. I want to cover up that little area up there. It's a little bit soft up there. Cover it up. No, it was great. But you had the greatest product. It was just fantastic. And right here in Detroit, Americans invented the muscle car and the minivan and the family SUV, so much. And along the road, you made the American automobile an inseparable part of and it was inseparable of the American dream. It was part of the American dream.
Exactly.
But after decades and decades of Michigan auto workers giving our nation their very best, our leaders in Washington did their very worst for them. They were terrible. You lost nearly 4 million manufacturing jobs after globalist politicians gave us the twin disasters of NAFTA, which I terminated, and China's entry into the World Trade Organization. That was a very expensive two things. Nearly 250,000 jobs were destroyed here. Right here in Michigan alone, think of it, 250,000, 250,000 jobs, including 40% of all of the auto jobs. And then it got to be much higher than that. Detroit was decimated as if by a foreign army. This was a foreign army invading us, but it was an army of business people, very brilliant business people, that took the candy out of our pockets just like you take it from a baby. That's how easy it was for them. Factories were left in ruins, beautiful hotels and theaters crumbled. More than 80,000 homes were abandoned. You see it outside.
I'm going to jump in here real quickly and say that there was a time that Detroit was in a serious decline, but I have to tell you guys that I know I'm from the Midwest, so I spent a lot of time over there, and it was considered a black city for a long time, and that connotation never dictates a fantastic thing, but it was crime ridden, we know, and it was bad, but we do know that it had a major resurgence. So just wanted to throw that in there real quickly.
By the time I came into office after our victory in 2016, the Michigan auto industry was on its knees begging for help, gasping, and really it was at the last breaths of life. And I had to move quickly. You were going to not have any auto industry here. It was all gone. It was just about over. They were going to move so fast, and I let countries that were stealing our businesses know, you do that, I'm going to do things to you you're not going to believe. I'm going to put tariffs. They laid off a lot. They could have taken it. We were at a very vulnerable point. I let certain countries know that if you do that, I'm going to put tariffs on you, and you're going to get your asses kicked, I'm telling you. And they laid off. They really laid off. But they laid off what? We had not very much left. So just as I promised, I withdrew from the job-killing Trans-Pacific Partnership in my very first week. And the reason I did is that would have absolutely destroyed your auto industry. You would have had none left. It was a disaster. And if you remember, Hillary Clinton wanted it, and Obama wanted it. And then after she read the facts when I did it, she came out against it because she said, he's right. She was totally in favor of it. But when she came out actually and agreed with me. And she said, I'm also against it. But I was there. It's sort of like no tax on tips. And then 2 months later, Kamala came out, no tax on tips. And it didn't play well for her. Didn't play well for Hillary either, obviously. I ended the disaster known as NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made by our country, and replaced it with the brand new USMCA. Bob Lighthizer and his team did a great job. The best trade deal they say ever made. I actually think maybe our deal with China, but I don't talk about that deal very much because of COVID. But we have a deal with China where they buy $50 billion worth of our product. That was a great deal. We made a lot of good ones. But with the USMCA, that's Mexico and Canada, we have massive incentives to make cars in the United States of America. I renegotiated Obama's Korea trade deal, which was a disaster, to fully restore the protective tariff on foreign pickup trucks. You know, the auto industry in this country makes most of its money from the pickup truck. Who would think, right? But we do great. If we didn't have that, you'd have no auto industry. You would, because that subsidizes other things. And
That is true. I mean, the auto industry, specifically in rural areas, relies on pickup truck sales. You have used to have a lot of farms, a lot of farmers, a lot of need for big trucks, specifically in Indiana, but pretty much all over the world. And they've always been the main sellers in most automotive places. You specifically for Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and things of that nature, but the pickup truck has been a staple. The 1500, the Ford F-150s, you can't go wrong.
the only reason it does is that the tariff on every single one of the big, if you didn't have the tariffs, if I didn't put those tariffs, you would be inundated from all over the world, and you wouldn't have it. Every single one of the Detroit Big Three could right now, and would right now, guaranteed be out of business. 50% of their U.S. sales are pickup trucks. Think of that, 50%. They make all their money with almost all their money. I want to be very accurate because you get a lot of fake news back there. I want to be extremely accurate. They came to see you in Detroit. I'll tell you, that's a good thing because they're going to hear some things today, I think, that are going to be very interesting. Perhaps most importantly, I imposed a 27.5% tariff on all Chinese automobiles, which largely kept them out of the market, meaning kept them out of the market and kept Detroit in business. In other words, I kept Chinese cars out of America, and we had to do it because when they come in, they take over everything, and you would have had no car manufacturing at all. And it was only me that did it. I met with a lot of...
And since he did do that, we have seen lots of China vehicles swim over here. And we're going to continue to see it. We really sit here and act like the 100% tariff that Biden did is going to stop these China automakers from coming over. We think that BYD is going to stop and they're just going to build a factory over in Mexico and not ship their vehicles over here. That's not how it's going to go down. They're going to find a way to get their vehicles here. They're going to find their way to get their vehicles into American hands. And the only key is for America to make sure that we guarantee that when that happens, that we benefit. And the only way we can benefit is if we as a country are, making money off of these vehicles as well as consuming them. Let's keep going.
Resistance. And remember this, between the lobbyists and everything else, it's brutal. It's brutal. Getting people to go along with you is brutal. Even if it's the wrong thing. They know it's the wrong thing, but they get paid a lot of money. So I just want to say, Michigan, you're welcome, because we have a little base to start off with. And if you look at Europe, Chinese cars have been absolutely drowning Europe, drowning it, it's killing it. But because of me, they are not drowning America. You see very few of them because of the tariffs. And when they do come in, they pay a lot of money. The Biden administration is thinking of taking that tax off, and if they take that tax off, you can wave goodbye to your auto industry, and you have the worst union leader probably in the history of, maybe in the history of our country for any business. I don't know him. Sean Fain is a disaster. But your industry would be gone very quickly. Under my leadership, we created nearly 500,000 brand new manufacturing jobs, including 30,000 auto manufacturing jobs right away. We saved it and we got it going. And that was nothing compared to what I'm talking about now. Nothing. Because we had COVID come in that final period, and we had to focus on that. The share of cars sold that were domestically produced increased for the first time in many years. It actually, because it was going down, down, down. And since I left, wait till you hear those numbers. The U.S. trade deficit in automobiles dropped by $6.8 billion. Think of that. And I had to do it on the fly. We had to do it fast because you're going to have no industry whatsoever. Whatever you have now, and it's a fraction of what you used to have in the glory days. I call them the glory days. That was when we were the greatest in so many ways. U.S. Steel, look at it. They want to sell U.S. Steel to a foreign country. I'm going to not let that happen. I hope the deal doesn't close before then. I will not let that happen. We need our steel. You know, I imposed a tremendous tariff on China and the steel. They were dumping steel all over the country, and our steel mills were going out of business, and I put a 50% tariff on, and that largely stopped it. And I think the people that like me the best are the steel people, because I saved their industry. We wouldn't have one steel plant in this country if I didn't do that. There wouldn't be one. And I had no wars, but other than I finished off ISIS very quickly. But I had no wars. But whether you have wars or don't have wars, when you have to make army tanks and when you have to make planes and everything else that you have to do is mostly steel. And we don't want to be in a position where we have a problem and we need China to help us out with steel. That could be a serious problem. Do you think they'd mind selling us some steel in the middle of a conflict? But I don't think we'll have a conflict with China. I think we'll get along with China, and I think we'll get along with Russia, and I think we'll get along with Ukraine, and I think we're going to get that one settled. And I think we're not going to have a problem with Israel, like October 7th would never have happened. Russia would have never happened. They would have never gone into Ukraine.
All right, so, and it was a pretty long speech, and he did have some derogatory statements about Detroit that were very controversial, and I personally think that those statements were more about the Detroit back in the day before Dan Gilbert started the renaissance of making Detroit what it is now. So besides that, everything he said is true, and what we're really talking about is a desire for, because we can't stop it. The automotive industry can't really stop China from bringing vehicles over here. We can't stop getting parts from them, getting steel, getting imports, getting parts for certain vehicles, getting certain vehicles from China. We can't stop that. We're at a point where that's going to be hard to do. So we're going to have to negotiate. We're going to have to make sure that they understand that if we're going to buy your product, then we're going to need some reciprocation. And the simplest way of getting reciprocation is for you to provide us here an opportunity to make money off of your product as well as consume it. And that's what he's talking about. Talking about these companies, specifically for me, BYD, or any other China automaker, to have factories over here to build certain parts, to build, the vehicles themselves. It doesn't matter to me. But we have to be able to reciprocate and not just consume. That is the biggest thing. You cannot sit here and be a consumer and not be profitable off the things you're consuming. It's one of those things that we talked about back in the day. It's not like don't get high off your own supply. It's more like, if you're going to buy from me, or if I'm going to buy from you, you need to make it worth me buying from you. And the way to do that is to put some money in my pocket. Building factories that provide opportunities for us here, because we've lost so much of that. Specifically in the automotive industry, we've lost so much of that. So many factories have closed down. So many factories have had layoffs, massive layoffs. We need these jobs back. And I particularly think that one of the way to get some of these jobs back is to build more factories, but it can't be factories from Stellantis or the big three or Chrysler or Dodge Jeep, because those are going out of business. We need factories from companies that are booming. The BMWs, the BYDs, the Volvos. We need the Mercedes. We need those factories here. And we need it quick. We need a presidency that is going to make sure that that happens. And that's what I need to hear from my presidential candidate, is how we're going to get over this automotive hump. This is my thing. This is what I'm concentrating on. It's the automotive industry, because, like I've said many times before, it's like a cataclysm. It's like a perfect representative of the United States of America and how it's going. We can only hope, because I don't trust no politician. I think that politicians have to lie to get into office, because that they'll say that they're going to do certain things, and then once they get into office, for certain reasons, they can't do those certain things, and that still makes you a liar. But, I hope that, my hope is that if Trump does become president, that he honors these things he's saying, because these are definitely things that the automotive industry needs right now. So bad. So bad. If you tune into my show at all, you know that the layoffs are constant and all the time, and continuous. So let's hope that if Kamala has a better way to repair the automotive industry, I'm all for it. I'm surely listening for it. I'm surely listening for her to tell me that, because that is what I want to know. All right, my friends, I'm going to go and get out of here. Just an impromptu show, but we're going to try to do more shows. Get it out there. People starting to tune in, and we love it. Please like, share, subscribe. Check me out. I'm your boy, Chris Surratt, and I'm out. Peace.